Most of the AI-generated websites I see these days looks like absolute garbage vibe-coded slop. But with just a few extra minutes of effort, they don't have to. So in this video, I'll show you the 2 things you need to be doing in order to create beautifully designed websites with Claude Code that don't look vibe coded. Now, the first thing we need to do before we even open up a new Claude Code session is to actually create an MD file. So what a Claude MD file is going to be is basically the instructions you're going to hand off to your web designer that's going to tell it exactly how to design your website, the things to stay away from, and the things to actually focus on. And to create an MD file, we can actually use Claude itself. Now, I already created one before this, and I'll walk you through exactly how I did that. So I basically said, Claude, can you create a Claude MD file for a beautifully designed website? I want to make sure it gives the instructions to never look like a vibe-coded website, examples attached, because usually vibe-coded designed websites have a purple gradient, so that should be avoided. It should always use beautiful font. It should always check its work after it's done. It should always make sure the website is optimized for both desktop and mobile, and it should always follow the design examples or the designs that the user gives it. So basically, I fed it these examples of what vibe-coded websites look like. You probably are familiar with this. When you pull up someone's brand new website and it just looks like, something that everyone else creates with like a vibe coding tool. So if you see that blue or purple gradient color and sort of like this nasty looking font, you already know it's vibe coded. So that's what we're trying to avoid here. And we're trying to make it look like a website that an agency may have designed for, $10,000. So I asked Claude to create it for me. It gave me this Claude MD file that I was able to download, and I'll actually leave a link to this MD file in the description, so you don't have to create it yourself. You can just use the one that I'm about to use in this video, and it basically goes through everything that the Claude agent should follow when it's creating the website. And now the second thing we'll do before we actually get started on building the website is to find inspiration. So Claude is actually pretty good at designing when you tell it exactly how you want something to look. But when you just say, make this look beautiful, that's when it's not very good. So if you can find a website that you really like and you want to copy the design for, that is going to yield you the best result. So you can go to inspiration websites like dribble.com or siteinspire.com. I tend to like SiteInspire, and scrolling through here, I really like this one. It's sort of like out of the box. It's not like a normal website with like a normal hero and like a menu at the top. It has like clouds, and as you scroll, it has all sorts of animations. So this is the website that I want to give it as a reference to sort of copy the design or the inspiration for the design. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take a full screen image. I just use this Go Full Page Chrome plugin, so it's going to take an image of the entire screen. And once it's done, I'll just go ahead and download that image. And then the other thing that we're going to do here so that it actually has some more information rather than just the image is we're actually going to give it the design code. So we're going to click on inspect here, and then you'll just want to find the body. So you can click on the body here. We'll go over to styles, and then you can actually just copy all of this code right here. So if you just go ahead and element style, and then we will copy all of this code right here. Go ahead and Control or Command C. And so now it's finally time to create our website. So I have the Claude desktop app opened here where I'm going to be using the Claude Code interface. Now, before we actually go ahead and prompt Claude, you're going to want to create an actual folder on your desktop or anywhere on your computer that you're going to point Claude Code to. So I named mine US Men's Team Soccer Website. So I want to create a website for the US National Men's Soccer Team in honor of the World Cup right now. And so I've dropped the MD file that we just created with Claude. I've also dropped in the United States Soccer logo, and I've also dropped in just like a picture of their team that I'll go ahead and say it can use. So that is all set there. And the last thing that I want to drop in here is the full screen image of the website screenshot that we just took. Okay, so now back in Claude, it is finally time to start prompting our website. So what I'm going to do here is make sure that you have it pointed to the folder that we just started here. So as you can see, I have the screenshot in there, the 2 pictures, and the MD file. So we will open that. And then we are just going to prompt it to create our website. So what I'm going to say here is create a beautiful website for the U.S. national men's soccer team. Make sure to follow all of the rules and instructions we'll use the @ symbol. This will pull up the files that are actually in our folder. And so we'll point it to the .md file to basically follow all of the instructions in there. And then I'll say, you can also use the US men's national team logo here. And I will point it at the logo. There it is. And then lastly, I'll say, I also have this image of the US team roster that you can use somewhere in the website if you want. And then I will point it at that picture. Awesome. And so one other thing we're going to want to do is use the front end Claude skill. So basically this is a skill from Anthropic that is going to help with the front end design of this website. So I'm just going to say, please make sure to use and then we just hit a dash here and we can go ahead and find the front end design skill here. Now, if you don't have this skill, all you have to do is go up to customize. And then in customize, you can go to skills and then you can add skills and then you can browse skills. So you'll just go find front end. I already have it, so I can't find it, but you can browse all of the skills here and you'll just click plus and that will add it to your workspace. So let's go back. We'll hit that / and then front end design. So that will actually tag that skill. Please make sure to use the front end design skill in all of your work. And I'm going to say use @ and then I'm going to link the full screen capture of the website. So I'm going to say use this website screenshot as your design inspiration. And then lastly, I'm going to say, and here's the actual HTML design code for that site. And I'm going to drop that in because I still have it copied from when we pulled it from the inspect on Google Chrome. And now we are all set. So let's go ahead and click send. Now it's going to take a little while. I actually have this set to ask permission. I'm going to change this to auto mode so that it doesn't ask me every time it wants to do something. So I'll give it a little bit to cook and I will come back here in a second. All right, Claude just finished up here. And overall, I'm pretty impressed with, the first go at it that it did here. So as you can see, we're showing it on mobile here, but it has the clouds in the background. It has the mobile menu here. We can see squad, history, fixtures, and match tickets. So it'll take you down when you click on the page. So it's basically like a one-page website. It has the group stage. So it basically has US versus TBD. So this is like for the next game. See the fixtures. Here's the actual schedule for the World Cup. You can see it use that picture of the squad here. So overall, this is pretty nicely designed. We can also take a look at it on web. So this is the mobile view. So if we just come over to our browser here, we can actually input that localhost 4599 and then load that. So we can see this is what the desktop view looks like. I like the sort of gradient down here. The clouds are moving across. I actually think the menu looks pretty nice when it's not on mobile. And this is actually at 67. So let's put this to 100. So this is what it would actually look like, which is like a pretty decent website. Like someone would definitely pay for this. And this, if you land on this, you don't initially think like, hey, this was vibe coded. This looks like an agency could have built it. But we're not done here because I'm not quite satisfied. So I'm going to come back here and I'm just going to say, can you please use and then I'm just going to tag the front end design skill to do an audit of this website and make sure that it looks the best that it can and also functions the best that it can. So I'm just going to have it do like an audit with this skill to make sure that it's done everything that it can to look good before I step in and sort of tell it what to do. Okay, so it just finished up, and as it would have it, it went and found a bunch of errors that it could fix on its own without me telling it. So the first one was this header right here. So before there was nothing behind it, and now you can see as you scroll, it's a sticky header, so it stays with us the whole time. The other thing is these clouds in the background. So as we scrolled before, they would go over the actual content. So like this cloud might get in front of these cards. Now you can see it's all behind the content. So overall, I mean, this looks pretty good. Like I would be totally happy with like shipping this off to a client and saying, hey, here's your first version. Like, let's go ahead and iterate on this. But two things to me really stand out when it comes to vibe coded websites. The first one is the colors. Now, I think we actually solved that here. It's not that terrible purple gradient or blue color. So I think we're all set there. But the other is font. And while this font is actually okay, I don't want to settle for okay. So what I'm going to do here is actually use the pencil tool. So I'm just going to grab it here, and then we can just circle this. And then it says add to chat. And then we'll say, can you change this font to something closer to, and then I'm going to actually go over to the US men's national website, or the US soccer website. And I kind of like this text that they're using here. So I'm just going to grab this, or sorry, the font. So I'm going to grab that screenshot. I'll go ahead and drop it in here and just say to the font in the screenshot. Okay, Claude just finished up here, and it found a new font that I think is actually pretty similar to the one that I gave it. So it's a little bit hard to read. I might spend some more time to actually figure out like the exact font that I want that would really like carry this homepage. But overall, like I think that this definitely does not look vibe coded. It looks like a fancy font that an agency might use. And I think that this web page looks like, you know, a professionally designed website that an agency definitely could come up with. Now, it doesn't have a ton of content. That's what it's missing. So if you really wanted to turn this into like a client's website, you'd want to add a bunch of content, like more pictures here. We only have the one. We have like info on where the players are at, like where they play normally, but we don't have like backgrounds on them. And I think this is fake information here. But overall, I'm pretty happy with this website. This is what it actually looks like on desktop. And I really like this footer section. So I like how these clouds are animated and how it's sort of like gradients down into the footer section. Now, the last step here is I want to show you how you can actually deploy this onto a website so you could send it over to a client and they could actually see it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to say, can you commit this to a new GitHub repo? Set up the repo for me and then commit it to GitHub. So in order to do this, you will need to connect your GitHub to your Claude account. However, you just do it one time and it's automatically connected for any future sessions. It just committed to GitHub, so we can deploy it here in a second. But the more that I look at this website, the more that I am starting to hate this font. So what I'm going to do here is I went over to Google Fonts, and Claude can actually grab fonts from Google. So I found this one font called Changa 1. I think it's a little bit better. Again, if I had a couple hours to go look at fonts, I would probably find something better. But I'm just going to say, can you actually change the header and title font to, I'm just going to paste in Changa 1. And then I'm going to find some paragraph text that I like a little bit better as well. So let's go to business, and then let's just say Google Sans Flex, and change the paragraph text to, okay. So I think that should look a little bit better here. I'll give it a few seconds to actually populate. All right, and Claude just finished up here. I think I like this text a little bit better on both the title and the paragraph text. Again, if I had a lot more time, I'd probably go through like 100 different fonts until I really found the one I like, because I really think the font can make or break a website. But now let's actually deploy this so that it can be live on the internet and we can actually send it to someone. So if we go back to Claude here, we can see that it pushed it to the GitHub repo that it actually created for me. And what I'm going to do is actually use Hostinger here. So this isn't a sponsored video or sponsored segment. They're not paying me to say this. I actually use Hostinger. If you want to use Hostinger as well, I'll leave a link below, and I think you get something like 10% off. You can use any VPS that you like. I just think Hostinger makes it really easy. So what I'm going to do here is from home, I'll just come over to VPS, and then I'll find my VPS here and click on manage. Now I have it set up on the Coolify operating system. It just makes it really easy to deploy anything from GitHub. I'll go to manage panel. It's going to log me into my account. If this is your first time doing it, it'll just have you create an account for Coolify. I'm going to go to my projects. I'm going to add a project, and it's already connected to my GitHub. So if this is the first time for you as well, you'll also have to connect your GitHub, but it walks you through all of it. You basically just have to sign into your account. Let's name this the the US soccer website, and then continue. And then we need to add resource, and then we just need to select private repo from GitHub, and then select GitHub app, and then we just need to find the app that it just submitted for us. So it's US Men's National Stars and Stripes. So let's go to Stars and Stripes, load repository, click on that, make sure the repo is loaded, continue, and then all we have to do here is hit deploy. And now this is going to deploy to some random domain that it's going to make up. So it won't be like www.mensnationalsoccer.com. However, if you have a domain you want to put this on, once it's done deploying, you can go ahead and configure and put your actual domain here. Okay, our deployment just finished. So now if we go over to configuration, we can find our domain. So it's this really ugly looking domain. We'll just go ahead and copy that, pasting it up here, and we can see our website is live on the internet. So that's full circle. If you have any questions, let me know. I want to hear what you're building and what you're actually designing with Claude Code. So that's it. As always, I appreciate you, and peace.